Hi, it's Mike Fitzgerald. I'm here at the Frontiers corporate headquarters. Today I'm going to be speaking with Gordon Baggett from Bahia Honda Sport Fishing Lodge in the Florida Keys. It's just a great destination for our clients who want to chase trophy tarpon on the flats. They were able to operate this season, so we're going to talk about some of the catches this year and look ahead to next year. Hope that you'll give it favorable consideration for a 2021 trip. Thank you. Hi, Gordon. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
And I see that you are out of the Keys and someplace more rural in Florida.
Yeah, off season I live up in North Florida.
That's a nice part of the state, and understand you've got a bit of a farm there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a nice change of scenery. We pretty just an outdoorsman all around, so we do a little hunting and fishing too. So in the wintertime we're up to different activities and fishing, and when the fishing's good, we're fishing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I know you love tarpon fishing as much as I do, and we've just had a great few years working with you in the Keys and at Bahia Honda, and I know that COVID kind of closed down all of us for a number of months, but the Keys opened June 1, and I know some of your tarpon clients and some of our clients still came down in the month of June. How was the season? How did it end up for you?
Well, it ended up great. Like everybody thought that the season was going to be closed the whole year. I think everybody that we had on our schedule for this year was really concerned. They thought they'd lose their money. The fishing lodge is going to be closed, going out of business. People didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't know what to expect. The first thing I did as soon as we heard about COVID and the situation, I just reached out to everybody, and we were in touch with everybody, and I let them know that, we're not holding anybody's, positions firm. Like we're going to be very flexible in our policy, and we, I just gave everybody the option if they wanted to hold their dates or postpone to next year or whatever they want to do. And as it turned out, the Monroe County, the Keys, were basically closed, like literally closed to all non-residents all the way to June 1st. So our normal May and June season wasn't literally possible in May. So a lot of our May anglers moved to June, and some of them moved to next year. And then the Keys opened in June 1st. So we had a 3-week season this year from June 8th to the end of June. And I had a lot of people really begging me to come down. Like they just wanted to get out. And, it was surprising. I learned a lot. Like some people are really, concerned about the risks and things like that. And I completely understand that. Some people, they're okay with the risk of getting out. They're still conscientious about wearing masks and how they travel, but they were very, very happy to come down. So the big surprise that I had was that we had so much interest in people coming down in the middle of all this. So we had a 3-week season. It wasn't too many people, but it ended up great. And the fishing, of course, was normal as usual. It's fantastic. Fish don't care. They don't know what's going on. So
Mother Nature was kind. No fronts or anything coming through in that period?
Yeah, no. I mean, as you know, we're primarily a tarpon targeted species. We tarpon fish mostly, and the tarpon migrate. So, whether it's an oil spill or a fish freeze or whatever catastrophe seems to happen, this species is really resilient to that. I mean, they migrate during the deep ocean. They're not coming around until May and June, and they come around and they're hungry. So it's a great little niche, and we're happy to get on the tarpon when they come in, and we only operate when it's the peak migrations. May and June is a good opportunity, even if it's the pandemic out. We had a good season. So
good. Well, I know the group I was hosting in May. I know we've moved to next year and just cannot wait to come down. So for next year, Gordon, what is your season? And I know that we moved a lot of clients from this year to next year. So I know availability at certain times is already tight. So I really want to encourage our clients that if they're interested in a first-class Keys experience to really look at dates now and get them penciled in the calendar. But are you operating from the very end of April through June? Is that typically the season?
Right. Usually we take the last couple of days of April and then we run through the end of June. So, as far as the season goes, I mean, I was a guide for 18 years, so it's pretty it's pretty much a May and June game. They the first week of May is, if you ask about availability, the first week of May is available up until the 8th. Then we're hosting you and your group. We've got a couple of solid groups following you, and then we've got space all through June. We did host a lot of people this year that were on the schedule for this year, so I really didn't move that many people to next year. I mean, I think most people wanted to come through with their dates. So we did some fishing this June, and we have some that transferred, but we've got plenty of space. So I would say first week in May and all June.
Good. Well, hopefully we'll get some business from this. I know some of your clients drove, others flew, and there's still quite a bit of concern in the market about traveling in this COVID environment. What did you and your team do at the lodge and the guides to make people as comfortable and as safe as possible?
This year, I just called everybody and I discussed everything with them. I mean, we're a pretty small business, and I asked how comfortable they were with travel, and a lot of them did drive, but I mean, I had 3 doctors, for example, like 1 neurologist and 2 surgeons, and they all came on airplanes. And I asked them after they got to the lodge, I said, how did you feel about the risk of traveling? They said, listen, we wear masks and we keep distance, and we're not hugging anybody in the airport. And really, when you think about the airlines, when you research the security measures, the airlines are safer. It's safer on an airplane than it is in a grocery store, like air quality wise. Like, they're doing extraordinary things to keep that virus from spreading on an airplane. So, but really, you can get to the Keys in one connection, and from anywhere in the U.S. So, there's not too much to it. We worked with a shuttle service that we know really well. We've dealt with them for a long time, and we made sure that they sanitized everything and disinfected everything between every single passenger. It's a 30-minute drive from the Key West airport to the lodge. And this year I insisted on everybody taking that shuttle service. I didn't want anybody Ubering or anything like that. So we could kind of control that. And we did the mask thing for a little while when they arrived, just to make sure that, they got the luggage disinfected after they got to the lodge, for example. Everybody wash hands. But then we went to a no mask environment, and still we're not in everybody's faces, but everybody was comfortable with that. When you think about the experience that a guest at our lodge has, you come in, you have your own bedroom. Every breakfast is breakfast made to order anyway, so they're usually eating at different times and in different spots. Some of our guys go onto the courtyard and the patio and eat breakfast. Some people eat in the dining room. Some are just coffee thing. So the breakfast is not really a risky thing. Lunch is on the boats. The anglers are on the boats all day long. Pretty much 8-9 hours a day, and dinner is usually a communal affair. But we've got a pretty good sized dining room, and we just didn't really we didn't have a problem. Next year, I think that we'll be a little bit more conscientious about after we've learned ways that the virus spreads. And this year was a little bit new to everyone. But come next year, we'll know much more about it, and we'll be able to alleviate the possibilities of virus spreading for clients at the lodge. But really, it's only the eating that everybody's together, because you're on the boat by yourself all day long. So it's an ideal environment to be
outside. And and I agree with you about the airplanes. I've flown 3 times since the COVID pandemic was upon us. Twice to our cabin in Montana, and then once down to the beach just for a weekend. And I honestly was super impressed with how clean the airports are. There are a lot fewer people in the airports, and on the planes, I feel more comfortable on that airplane than I do, as you mentioned, going to the grocery store or a hardware store, or really any restaurant or public place. So we feel pretty confident about traveling right now comfortably, where it's okay to go. Still a lot of places closed.
I think that if you're the type of you're the type of angler who's elderly and you've got significant health risks, frankly, I don't think it's worth the risk to go and try and catch a fish. If you're on some serious health issues and you're worried about it, I don't want anybody to jeopardize their life trying to get to us. But frankly, I just don't think that it's really that risky travel. We're talking about airline travel, so between now and next year, maybe the airports get jam packed again. But right now, they're really low capacity. The planes are low capacity, and the airlines are doing a great job at filtering that air. So if you're comfortable with the risk, I think that it's a good destination, especially because we're domestic. We're in the U.S., so there's nothing unexpected in the foreign airports or anything like that. Like, what to expect coming to the Keys.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's easy to get to. And people that even don't want to do the connection, it's not an unbearable drive from Miami. It's kind of fun to drive down through the Keys.
True. Yeah, true.
Gordon, I know, every time I'm down there, I'm always looking for tarpon, but the Keys has some amazing other types of fishing, from bonefish to permit to unbelievable reef fishing, even offshore fishing. Do you do some of that during the tarpon season? If you have somebody that maybe doesn't want to just catch tarpon?
Sure. One thing that we do mix up a lot is we have some older guys that don't want to battle a 120-pound tarpon every day. So we do have the option of juveniles on a daily basis. So we can get into juveniles. We can get into, I would say, juveniles or 40 pounders maybe. But we've got the baby tarpon in that 10, 15, 20 pound range. But besides tarpon, of course, we've got bonefish and permit too. Other things like, my son just caught a snook, a great 40-inch snook. And there's not tons of snook, but there are occasional around. We've got some corporate guys that come in and they just want to catch fish. They don't care about the tarpon. They just want action. And so we set them up with an offshore trip every time they come, which is we deal with a captain that's on the next island over, and they catch a whole bunch of dolphin and wahoo and all kinds of stuff. We've got some people who want to shark fish, and they bring their kids, and they're doing this with their spinning rods, and they're bringing sharks in left and right, and big barracudas and all that stuff. I would say for a serious angler, the significant other species that we target is permit. So if you look at the Keys from a satellite photo, for example, there's two general areas. There's the upper Keys and the lower Keys. And the upper Keys has sort of a different bottom than the lower Keys. The upper Keys is much more, it's softer bottom. It's a muddier bottom. You step out of the boat and you sink up to your waist. And the lower Keys is mostly rocky. And so I personally think that the upper Keys is just much more of a bonefish rich area. And the lower Keys is much, it's permit headquarters in the lower Keys. The permit just love that rocky bottom, those critters in the rocks and all that stuff. So we have, tons of permit fishing. It's where all the permit tournaments are held. And so especially in June, actually, because the permit go offshore during late April and May to spawn, and they start coming back to the flats. There's always a few around, but they start coming back to the flats in June, and especially like second week of June, third, fourth week, there's a lot of permit. So especially late June, we have a lot of serious anglers that they come with the intention of splitting their day between permit and tarpon. So and with tarpon, it's kind of like you can always find tarpon on any tide somewhere, because we have a Gulf tide and Atlantic tide also that are in close proximity. But in permit, it's a very specific tide. So when we do that, we plan the day with the guide around the permit tide, whatever that time the ideal tide is, at 3 hours or so of the perfect permit tide, and then they tarpon fish the rest of the time. So that's one thing that we do a lot of. Excuse me.
I'm one of those guys that if I have fought a big tarpon for a while, I'm not always anxious to jump right up into the bow of the boat to look for another one. So having the opportunity to go do something else, I think is great. A
lot of it is really just random. It's like, the diehard tarpon guys, I understand it. You can come down, we do, by the way, we do about half fly fishermen guys, and half of them are fly casting, half of them are corporate types that just want to catch fish, and we've got them on a conventional spin rig. So, experience is not a requirement thing. Like for instance, I just had a couple this last June. They had never been fishing before. It was my first time I think I ever hosted anybody that had never been fishing, of any kind of fishing.
Wow.
And they were from New York or something. They had a place in Palm Beach, and they wanted to get out of town for a little while. And they came down for a 3-day trip, and never had a fishing rod in their hands, either of them, husband and wife, and they both fished. And the first day, I think that they went on spinning rods, and they jumped a big tarpon on a crab. The second day, they landed a big tarpon on a crab, and the wife landed a permit on a crab. She didn't know what it was. Neither of them knew what it was, and the guide, explained to them, this is pretty much, what we're
holy grail of saltwater.
Right. And then the third day, they just casually said, "Hey, let's just switch to fly." I thought it was so funny because they just, hey, they were two days of fantastic fishing out of the gate, so they switched to fly, and they hooked a big tarpon on a fly. The guide said that the leader was in the end of the rod where the fish ate it, and they hooked it. They didn't land it, but it was one of those wide eyeball days. And they came back and they said, "I had no idea this is what this was about." Wow. So they're on my schedule for next year, by the way. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so I mean, we just have a lot of random stuff like they didn't expect to be permit fishing, but they were just there, and the guide had a small crab and said put it on a rod and chuck it to the permit. So the guides are willing to do whatever the anglers want. We're really flexible program, and these guides are just the guides that I work with are super easygoing and friendly, and and they just want people to have fun. And so there's no yelling, nothing like that, no demanding stuff. And we rotate guides every day, by the way. So our guests get to fish with everybody. And
I'm a big fan of that. I know there's pros and cons to both, but I think when it comes down to it, rotating is the fairest way. I enjoy just meeting the different personalities, and as long as the guides can communicate with you and transfer knowledge to the other guide about the angler's interests and abilities and things like that, it works well, and there's no feeling that somebody got a better guide than the other client.
Yeah. And usually, I'll feel it out during the trip, so I'll ask people at the dinner table, "Hey, who'd you like fishing with the most?" And I'll try and pair them up on their last day or something like that. So it works out pretty well, but it definitely gives people the feeling that there's not a drawing contest. And usually when I ask that question at the dinner table at the end, they're like, "We liked all of them." They're very evenly, skilled team. It's not like some rookies and some experts. It's like very evenly skilled group. And I think people like that. I mean, we rotate because people like rotating. So,
Gordon, I know most of the guides have equipment, and you probably do too. But if somebody doesn't have the right gear, or if somebody's struggling with fly fishing and wants to try conventional tackle for a few hours, do you have that gear?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a triple F fly class casting instructor, and so I give people lessons all the time. Just for anytime they want a lesson, we go out on the dock and we start throwing some loops and work on a few mechanics.
I'm going to need you to show me how to do the back cast better. I don't know how much of it is buck fever and how much of it is me, but I just can never seem to get the fly where it needs to be backwards.
Well, it's not experience because you've got the experience. Yeah, I think, we're just such a flexible program. We don't have a set departure and come back time. We just sort of float around with whatever the clients like to do. And as far as the tackle goes, of course, we have lodge tackle. I actually prefer people use our stuff because our source of fly rods because, these tarpon are tough. It's pretty predictable when people come down with their own stuff. They that haven't saltwater fished before, they don't really know what to expect. They're not on it. So, as far as rods, reel, it's not really about the rod. It's all about the reel and the backing. So if you've got a good reel and backing, you're in business with any rod. We use clear floating fly lines, by the way. So it's pretty specific. I mean, not most people don't have those. So So it's just kind of a drag people to go out and buy those lines, ahead of time. So we just keep a load of everything, and it's the
Good.
best of everything. So as far as spinning rods, sure, we've got tons of stuff, so whatever people want to do, we're set up. We've had people that lost their luggage coming down, and they got it 2 days later, and they were just fine we even have spare toothbrushes, so we're pretty prepared for people, not needing anything.
Good.
We don't have any charges, for clients when they show up. Like, we don't have any bills when they leave. There's nothing like that. I mean, we sell a few guide shirts, fishing shirts, if people want them, but yeah, we're pretty equipped when it comes to the gear.
Good. Well, we hope to get some more clients with you next year. I cannot wait to see you in May down there. And
13 years we've been doing business, and I still haven't met you in person. So
I know. Well, COVID caused that problem this year. I was really looking forward to that trip. So we'll have a good time. And thanks so much for looking after our guest, Gordon. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know. And really looking forward to next year's tarpon season. So thank you.
Of course. So I'm happy to have you guys come in, and I really I want people to know that we're being flexible about policy things. Like, if I were looking at booking a fishing trip right now, the first thing on my mind was what happens if COVID gets worse? And what do I have to expect? Am I going to lose my money if the economy crashes and I can't leave, whatever? But we're pretty flexible, and I want your guys to know that that we're not in the highway robbery business, and like, we want to have people have fun, and we're going to be completely understanding about this pandemic situation. And if somebody books a trip and they can't come because of COVID, then we're going to move their trip or whatever they want to do. So we're going to be very flexible with everybody, and we want to invite people to come to the Keys and have a good time in the tropics, and get away from their winter colds and things like that, and enjoy some fishing. But we want it to be easy for them.
Good. Well, that's very nice of you, and we certainly appreciated what you did for our group this year, which is right along those same lines. So that was great. Well, thanks a bunch, and let you get back to your farm, and I hope you have a great weekend.
It was good talking to you, Mike.
You too, Gordon. Thanks.